Imagine for just a second that you're sitting in, like a classic quintessential 80s or 90s action movie.
Oh, yeah. You know the exact vibe.
Right. You're in this dark room, the smell of buttered popcorn is just heavy in the air, and that massive theater surround sound is literally rattling your seat.
The absolute peak of cinematic adrenaline. You're just completely immersed in the illusion.
Exactly. On screen, there are these massive explosions, high-speed chases, and, a military helicopter's falling out of the sky in dramatic slow motion.
Naturally.
And just as the smoke starts to clear right at the climax, the camera zooms in for a tight, dramatic close-up on the hero who just saved the day.
The big reveal.
But here is the ultimate plot twist. That rugged face on the giant screen. It's not Tom Cruise.
Right.
It's not some untouchable Hollywood A-lister at all. It's your face. The face of the person sitting on the couch right now listening to this.
Which is just, it shatters every basic expectation we have about what a movie is actually supposed to be.
It really does. Welcome to today's Deep Dive, everyone. Our mission today is to unpack this dizzying rise of what's being called hyper-personalized cinema. Because, artificial intelligence is completely destroying that historical glass wall between the audience and the screen.
Yeah. For a century, there was this rigid boundary.
Right. We've always talked about actors like breaking the fourth wall with a witty joke to the camera, but this is fundamentally different. The fourth wall isn't being broken. It's becoming a mirror.
It is. And to really grasp the gravity of this, setting the historical context is just crucial, because high-quality cinema was an incredibly exclusive club for over 100 years.
A total VIP section.
Exactly. It functioned as this fortress, shielded by mountains of money, highly trained specialists, and logistics that honestly rivaled military operations.
Yeah.
What we're seeing now is a massive structural shift. We aren't talking about those funny, 10-second social media filters that swap your face onto a dancing cat.
Right, not the gimmicks.
No, we are talking about the generation of continuous, photorealistic, feature-length films generated from a standard home computer.
Which is insane to even say out loud. And carrying the equivalent of Universal Pictures in our pockets requires a massive technical leap, primarily because AI had to solve the single biggest headache in the entire visual effects industry, which is visual consistency.
Oh, yeah. Until very recently, the idea of generating an entire cohesive movie with AI was considered the holy grail. It was a totally impossible, frustrating task.
It's a nightmare.
Because the failure lay in how early AI processed video. It functioned on this mechanism called pixel prediction.
Right.
The machine would look at one frame of a video and try to guess, almost by brute force, where the pixels should go in the next fraction of a second. It basically suffered from a severe case of goldfish memory.
Goldfish memory, exactly. Had a total lack of short-term memory. I always pictured those early AIs as like a wildly talented draftsman with amnesia working at 1,000 miles per hour.
That's a great way to put it.
If you tinker with those early video generators from just like a year or two ago, it was like being trapped in a lucid nightmare.
Oh, the artifacts were terrifying.
You tell the AI to generate a character walking down a dark alley. It vaguely remembers there's a human shape, but then the character turns their head to look at the camera, and suddenly their nose melts right into their cheek.
Yep.
Or they reach out a hand, and they suddenly have 6, maybe 7 fingers. A brick building in the background might just start melting like ice cream in the summer sun.
Because at its mathematical core, that early system simply didn't understand the concept of identity. It didn't know what a human was or what a shirt was.
It was just guessing.
Right.
Yeah.
It just saw moving blobs of color that needed to flow from the left side of the screen to the right. It was estimating motion, not understanding physical reality.
So, okay, the leap from that melting ice cream nightmare to actual photorealism that comes down to the underlying mechanism, right? We aren't just guessing where pixels go anymore.
Not at all. We moved to advanced diffusion models. And the way these work under the hood is just fascinating. They start with pure noise.
Noise, like audio noise.
No, visual noise. Picture the gray, fuzzy static on a really old CRT television set.
Oh, okay. Got it.
The AI uses massive data sets that connect human language to visual patterns.
Hmm.
When you give it a text prompt, it runs a reverse diffusion process.
Which means what exactly?
It means it mathematically predicts and subtracts the noise step by step until an image forms that matches your words.
Wow. So it's essentially like starting with a giant block of marble that is made entirely of TV static, and the AI is just rapidly chipping away everything that isn't the image you asked for until you're left with the perfect sculpture.
That analogy holds up perfectly, but to get the visual consistency required for a movie, the AI needed a way to anchor that sculpture.
Right, so it doesn't melt in the next frame.
Exactly. This is where identity seeds and the latent space come in.
Latent space. That sounds so sci-fi.
It really does. Think of the latent space as an infinite monumental library. But instead of books, this library contains every visual concept imaginable, and each concept has an exact mathematical coordinate.
Okay.
There is a precise coordinate for piercing blue eyes, another for the texture of worn leather, and another for the golden light of a sunset.
So an identity seed then is a hyper-precise GPS coordinate within that infinite library.
Spot on.
You no longer tell the AI, draw a generic man in a jacket in every scene and then just cross your fingers hoping it looks similar. You give it that fixed mathematical anchor.
You lock it in. The AI is no longer improvising the character's appearance frame by frame. It is referencing that exact coordinate every single time it renders the scene.
A great case study of how powerful this is from the sources we looked at revolves around something as simple as a red leather jacket.
Oh, the jacket example's perfect.
Right. Let's say you're writing a script and your protagonist wears a very specific red leather jacket, but it has a tiny characteristic scratch right on the left shoulder seam. Just a minuscule detail.
Very specific.
With an identity seed, the AI locks onto the mathematical coordinate of not just the jacket, but that specific scratch. It becomes completely unalterable.
Yes.
Scene 1 could have your character standing under the blazing, abrasive sun of the Sahara Desert. Scene 100 has them standing under a flickering green fluorescent light in a gray Tokyo office. The lighting physically reacts to the environment.
The shadows change, the reflections change.
Exactly, but the scratch and the leather remain perfectly mathematically consistent.
And the psychological implication of that consistency is what makes this an actual revolution. Visual consistency isn't just a neat technical trick. It is the absolute engine of narrative.
The engine of narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Because without it,
Everything falls apart. If there is an error in the physical consistency of the world, your primitive brain instantly flags it as an error in the simulation. The illusion breaks and your emotional connection to the story shatters.
you stop watching a movie and start watching a tech demo.
Exactly. By solving this memory problem, the technology allows us to move past viral 10-second clips and actually build sustained, feature-length emotional narratives.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if the AI guarantees my protagonist won't mutate into a three-headed monster when I change the camera angle, that means I don't ever need to physically transport them anywhere.
Which brings about the total collapse of the traditional production chain.
Right.
Historically, cinema has been, in many ways, a glorified moving company. It relies entirely on moving massive amounts of matter from point A to point B.
When you really look at it, traditional filmmaking logistics are completely absurd.
They really are.
If you want to shoot a 3-minute chase scene in a traditional movie, you are buying plane tickets for 100 people. You are booking 50 hotel rooms. You are literally shipping trucks full of massive lights, heavy cameras, and craft services to a freezing Icelandic glacier.
Just for 3 minutes of footage.
Exactly. And after spending all that money, you could lose 100,000 euros in a single afternoon simply because a stray cloud rolled in and ruined the perfect sunset light you were waiting for.
It's wildly inefficient. The AI alternative, though, bypasses the physical world entirely.
Yeah.
The algorithms intrinsically understand the physics of light. You don't need the plane tickets or the Icelandic glacier. You simply command the system to apply oblique, frigid Icelandic light to the mathematical coordinates of your character's scene.
It just builds it.
The financial barrier that protected world building completely collapses, ushering in the era of what we call the individual cinema.
But wait, if the machine is doing all the heavy lifting, handling the lighting, the lenses, the location, the human input has to shift entirely, right? There isn't just a make masterpiece button on the keyboard.
No, not at all.
So where does the creativity actually come from?
The emerging workflow replacing that massive moving company is essentially a blend of old-school tabletop role-playing games and modern data engineering.
Data engineering.
Well, yeah, it all revolves around the character sheet. Before a single frame is generated, the creator has to write this document using surgical precision. They use pure text to detail every conceivable trait.
Like eye color and height.
Physical attributes and the texture of their clothes, certainly, but also their personality, the specific cadence of their walk cycle, their historical era, and even their micro-expressions.
So technical skills are effectively being devoured by vocabulary.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Because for 100 years, being a great director meant knowing exactly which 35mm lens to use, or knowing how to bounce warm light off a reflector board to make an actor look good.
Yeah.
All of that physical, technical knowledge is becoming obsolete.
It really is. Now, the person with the most exquisite vocabulary wins.
That is such a paradigm shift.
Control has returned entirely to the word. If you can articulate the exact nuanced difference between a crepuscular melancholy and an oppressive urban sadness, the machine will render it perfectly.
Wow.
The great director of tomorrow isn't a physical technician. They are an ultra-precise novelist.
Because artificial intelligence is, at the end of the day, just zeros and ones. The machine does not feel melancholy.
No, it has no concept of what sadness actually is.
It can only represent those concepts visually, if a human knows how to evoke them through language.
The human provides the soul. The machine provides the execution. And this dynamic extends deeply into audio as well, specifically voice cloning.
Oh, right, the audio side of things.
A human can record themselves reading something as mundane as a grocery receipt for 30 seconds. From that tiny sample, the AI doesn't just clone the basic pitch of the voice, it captures the timbre.
The actual grain of the voice.
Exactly. It captures the size, the dramatic pauses, the hesitations. Then it perfectly lip syncs those incredibly human audio nuances onto the digital avatar.
So the human provides the intention, the drama, the spark.
Soul of the machine.
And if the workflow is streamlined to the point where anyone, anywhere can be the star, the writer, and the cinematographer of their own blockbuster universe, well, the sociocultural debate gets incredibly thorny.
It does. It really does. If anyone can do this, what does that do to us as a society?
Historically, pop culture and cinema specifically was our social glue. It was a shared experience. We all sat in the dark and cried at Titanic together. We all cheered at the portal scene in Avengers together.
Right.
We went to work the next day and talked about the exact same cultural moment.
It provided a common language for society. But the prediction now is a massive bifurcation in how we consume media.
A split.
A huge split. Traditional, physically shot cinema, the kind where actors actually froze on that Icelandic glacier, won't disappear. It will transition into luxury craftsmanship.
Oh, like handmade furniture.
Exactly. It will be valued specifically for its human imperfection, much like how we value handmade wooden furniture over mass-produced plastic today.
So Christopher Nolan movies become artisanal luxury goods.
Pretty much.
But the daily consumption, the stuff we watch to unwind after work, becomes implacably hyper-personalized.
Relentlessly so.
Instead of scrolling endlessly for 45 minutes trying to find something to watch on a streaming platform, the process becomes entirely active. You upload 3 photos of your face, you select a few tags, sci-fi, cyberpunk, 90s thriller, desaturated colors, and wet asphalt smoke.
You build it yourself.
Right. You hit generate, and 15 minutes later, you are delivered a custom 2-hour, structurally perfect movie where you are the brilliant detective solving the crime.
Which fundamentally changes the nature of entertainment from a shared communal event to an isolated, bespoke experience.
And honestly, this feels like the absolute pinnacle of technological narcissism.
A lot of critics agree with you.
I mean, if I am only ever consuming stories where I am the smartest person in the room, where I am the impossibly attractive hero who saves the day, aren't we just trapping ourselves in impermeable ego bubbles? We're never challenged by an outside perspective. We lose the shared culture entirely.
That is a very valid concern. But we have to be careful not to fall into the classic moral panic that happens every single time a medium democratizes.
Moral panic.
Yeah, I mean, think about when novels became popular. Critics genuinely panicked. They argued that reading books alone in a room would destroy social cohesion and isolate people.
Oh, wow.
The printing press faced similar pushback. So, regarding the narcissism critique, we have to weigh it against the immense reservoir of creativity that is currently silenced.
The gatekeeping of the traditional studio system.
Exactly. Right now, there are tens of thousands of marginalized voices, brilliant storytellers, and incredible scripts just gathering dust in drawers.
Because they can't get funded.
Right. The traditional studio system is incredibly risk-averse. Executives mitigate financial risk by funding safe sequels and established IP. A weird, niche, brilliant script from an unknown writer rarely gets made because they don't have the connections to secure a $5 million budget.
They just get locked out.
But this technology bypasses the gatekeepers entirely.
It allows those unmade stories to see the light of day with the exact same visual fidelity as a Hollywood blockbuster. You no longer need permission from a studio executive to build your world.
It is the ultimate democratizer. But it does come with profound shifts in the attention economy. If anyone can make a movie starring themselves, the mechanics of virality completely change.
Okay, this is the part from the sources that just blew my mind. Today, a movie studio spends millions of dollars trying to get you to share a trailer of Tom Cruise jumping out of a flaming airplane.
Right.
Tomorrow, the future of virality isn't that. It's an app that scans your face through your phone's camera and instantly sends you a trailer where you are the one jumping out of the flaming plane.
And from a psychological standpoint, that is infinitely more magnetic. When the logistics cost $0 and the visual quality is algorithmically flawless, the sheer volume of this self-centric content is going to be
They're going
staggering.
to flood everything.
The economy of attention will radically pivot toward the self because no matter how much we love movie stars, seeing ourselves do extraordinary cinematic things is incredibly addictive. Every single person becomes their own production studio and their own A-list star.
So the big takeaway here isn't a panic piece about AI coming for actors' jobs. It's much bigger than that. The technology is handing a limitless Hollywood soundstage to every single person on Earth. We are no longer passively watching cinema. We are molding its raw material using nothing but our vocabulary.
And yet, through all of this, the central paradox remains. The machine is a master of pixels. It can hold the lighting perfectly on the tiny scratch of a red leather jacket across 100 different scenes, but it has absolutely no understanding of the human condition.
Right.
It doesn't know love, and it doesn't know suffering. The arc of a character, the moral weight of a decision, those things still require a human soul to write the character sheet. Human intent remains the necessary spark that turns pure math into meaning.
Before we wrap up today, I really want to leave you with a deep, lingering thought, something to mull over tonight that builds on everything we've talked about. Throughout the 20th century, legendary directors often called cinema the ultimate empathy machine.
That was the whole point of the medium.
Right. It forced you to sit in a dark room for 2 hours and exist in the shoes of someone completely different from you, someone from another culture, another era, facing problems you've never had to face.
It was a machine designed to force us to care about the other.
But if our daily entertainment is now training us to always be the hero of our own bespoke, hyper-personalized narratives, what happens when this technology bleeds out of fiction and into how we consume reality?
That's the real question.
Imagine a near future where educational documentaries or even daily news recaps automatically insert your face onto historical figures just to keep you engaged. If we reach a point where we can no longer engage with history or reality unless it is literally wearing our own face, do we lose the fundamental human capacity to care about a world that exists outside of ourselves?
It's a sobering thought.
Will we completely lose the patience to just sit across from a friend and listen to their real-life story, simply because in their story we are only a secondary character? It's definitely something to think about the next time you're sitting in a dark room, surround sound rattling your seat, waiting for the hero's face to appear through the smoke. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.